Imagine waking up one morning and realizing everything you've been told about being a good person was a lie. That kindness isn't strength. That compassion doesn't lead to justice. That morality is not a universal truth, but a weapon used by the weak to shame the strong. Welcome to the brutal world of Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who dared to rip the mask off civilization and expose the raw, primal instincts underneath. In this video, we're not just exploring his ideas, we're diving headfirst into the storm. By the time we reach the end, you may never look at power, goodness, or even yourself the same way again. For centuries, society has taught us a convenient fiction, that humility is noble, that meekness is virtuous, and that those who suffer are somehow more righteous than those who conquer. But Nietzsche saw through the illusion. He believed this story was not born from truth, but from weakness. A kind of moral revenge invented by the powerless, those who couldn't compete with the strong, so instead rewrote the rules of the game to make strength look like a sin. This was Nietzsche's concept of slave morality, a dangerous idea cloaked in virtue, a value system built not on excellence or courage, but on resentment, fear, and guilt. Think about it. Have you ever felt ashamed of your ambition, of your hunger for success? Have you ever been told to tone it down, be humble, don't brag? That's slave morality in action. It punishes greatness and rewards mediocrity. It shames strength, praises submission, and tells lions they should act more like sheep. But Nietzsche had a warning. Be careful when fighting monsters, that you do not become one. For when you gaze long into the abyss gazes also into you. Because when a culture elevates weakness, it doesn't liberate anyone. It enslaves everyone. So here's the question you must face. A question that cuts deeper than any sword. Have you been trained to fear your own strength? Stay with us. Because in the next part, we'll uncover how Nietzsche believed this system keeps us docile and what it truly takes to become free. Society doesn't fear evil. It fears power. It doesn't fear cruelty. It fears people who refuse to be controlled. Because make no mistake, this world is not designed for the strong to thrive. It's built to tame them. From the moment you're born, you're given invisible chains. Be nice, be agreeable, don't stand out, obey. In schools, they reward obedience, not creativity. In workplaces, conformity is king. In relationships, people are told to settle, not to strive. It's not a conspiracy. It's worse. It's culture. And Nietzsche saw it with terrifying clarity. He wrote of herd morality, a system where the masses come together, not to lift the best among them, but to drag them down. Because the herd does not want to be challenged. The herd fears those who walk alone. So it brands them. The ambitious become arrogant. The dominant become dangerous. The independent become problematic. And slowly, ruthlessly, society files down your edges until you fit neatly in the box it made for you. But what if that box was never meant for you? What if your discontent, your hunger, your refusal to be average isn't a flaw, but your soul remembering that you were meant for more? Nietzsche didn't just expose this system, he dared people to defy it. Because to live freely, to live with power, means to risk being hated, misunderstood, and feared. Are you ready for that? Because the next part is the hardest truth of all. There is a force inside you, a silent storm. It's not taught, it's not inherited, it's primordial. Nietzsche called it the will to power. And no, it's not about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. It's the raw drive that pushes a child to walk, that fuels artists to create, that dares warriors to step into battle. But most people suppress it. They numb it with comfort. They trade it for validation. They bury it beneath politeness, religion, or ideology. Why? Because real power is terrifying. It requires responsibility. It demands you say, I will no longer be who they told me to be. I will become who I truly am. That's not safe. That's not easy. That's dangerous. But it's the only way to become more than just a shadow of what you could be. Nietzsche didn't believe in equality. Not because he hated people, but because he believed in potential. He who cannot command himself must obey. He wasn't glorifying tyrants. He was warning you. If you do not rule yourself, someone else will. So, will you listen to your will to power? Or will you stay asleep, tamed by fear, applauded by the herd, forgotten by history? What does it look like to become free? Not rich, not popular, not accepted, free. Nietzsche had a name for that kind of person, the Übermensch, the Overman, not a superhero, but a soul who creates their own morality, lives by their own values, and doesn't need permission to exist. The Übermensch is a rebellion in human form, a walking challenge to every system that says, fall in line. He or she does not need approval. They are not seeking fairness. They are not asking to be loved. They are becoming. This idea shook the world. It still does, because if even one person can live that way, it proves the herd is lying. It proves freedom is possible, but only for those willing to pay the price. And what is the price? Rejection, struggle, pain, and above all, responsibility. To create your values means you can't hide behind tradition. To choose your path means no one else can be blamed. But what you gain in return is life. A real one. Not one on autopilot. Not a safe, small, invisible life. But a life where you rise, not in cruelty, but in truth. And that's where we're going next. Because in the next part, we'll ask the question most fear to face. If your life repeated forever, would you be proud of it? Nietzsche posed a question that still haunts minds today. What if you had to live your life again, exactly as it is, over and over, for eternity? Every joy, every regret, every failure you're still running from, forever, not once, not twice, but endlessly. This wasn't a threat, it was a mirror, to expose the truth of how you're living right now. Because if the thought of reliving your life terrifies you, then something must change. This is the concept of eternal recurrence. And it's not a myth, it's a test, one that forces you to ask, am I making choices that matter? Am I building a life worth repeating? Or am I surviving each day and calling it living? Most people numb themselves. They call it balance. They call it being realistic. But what if realism is just another name for fear dressed as wisdom? Nietzsche's challenge is simple yet brutal. Live each moment as if it will echo through eternity. Would you still scroll through hours of meaninglessness? Would you still apologize for your ambition? Would you still silence your truth for comfort? Or would you rise? Because once you embrace the weight of eternity, you begin to treat time as sacred. You begin to live with fire, and that fire, that's what leads us into the abyss. Nietzsche wrote, "If you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." Terrifying? Yes. But also necessary. Because every human soul will, at some point, stand at the edge, where everything safe and familiar vanishes, where nothing makes sense, where you are forced to ask, who am I, when there's no one left to impress. That is the abyss. It's not just fear. It's the stripping away of illusion. It's the moment you realize no one is coming to save you. And yet, it's in that blackness that you find your spark. This is the paradox Nietzsche saw so clearly. The only way to become strong is to walk through the dark without guarantees. You must lose your masks, your borrowed morals, your excuses. And when the abyss stares back at you, it shows you who you really are. Some run from that mirror. They distract themselves to death. But the brave, they stare back. They say, I see the chaos, I feel the void. and I choose to create meaning anyway. Because freedom doesn't come from comfort. It comes from looking into the darkness and saying, I'm still here. That's the doorway to greatness, and Nietzsche knew it. Which brings us to the final shift, the one most people will never make. In a world obsessed with fitting in, Nietzsche's words cut through like thunder. Become who you are. Not what they told you to be, not what gets the most likes, not what's safe, but who you truly are. Your pain, your madness, your genius, your rage, all of it. Nietzsche believed you're not born with an identity, you forge it, like a sword in fire. That's why strength isn't domination, it's self-creation. It's the courage to tear down everything false and build a life with your own hands. But here's the secret. It's hard, it's lonely, and it's glorious. Because when you stop living for applause, you start living with power. When you stop asking for permission, you start giving yourself purpose. And when you stop fearing judgment, you start becoming unstoppable. This is the path of the overman. Not a god, not a tyrant, but a human who refuses to die, never having truly lived. You have that power, but you must claim it. And in the final part, we'll unleash the ultimate truth, the one that destroys the weak and awakens the strong. Are you ready? Let's not romanticize it. This path is brutal. To rise above the herd, to think for yourself, to feel deeply, to act boldly, comes with a cost. You will lose people. You will be misunderstood. You will face ridicule from those still clinging to comfort. Society does not reward the one who awakens. It rewards the one who obeys. But Nietzsche's point wasn't comfort. It was freedom. And freedom, in his eyes, is earned. It's earned when you stop blaming the world and start taking ownership of everything. Your flaws, your failures, your fate. Because once you accept full responsibility, you become untouchable. No shame can chain you. No insult can wound you. No system can cage you. That is power. And it is terrifying to those who've built their lives on excuses. They'll try to pull you back, mock your ambition, label your strength as arrogance. But never forget, you don't need their approval. You need your courage. Nietzsche believed that in a decaying world, authenticity becomes rebellion, and rebellion becomes rebirth, which leads us to the final revelation. So many live their lives waiting to be discovered, waiting to be saved, waiting for permission to matter. But Nietzsche's final, most radical message, destiny is not discovered. It is created, not in dreams, not in silence, but in fire. You are not some passive observer in this life. You are the blacksmith of your own soul. Everything you've endured, your pain, your losses, your scars, were not punishment. They were raw material. And what you do with that is your art. So ask yourself, are you shaping your destiny or watching it rot? Because if life has no inherent meaning, then you are free. Terrifyingly, beautifully free. To make it mean something. Every moment you hesitate, the herd grows louder. But every moment you choose strength over fear, action over numbness, truth over convenience, you step into who you were meant to be. Not the perfect you, the real you, the dangerous you, the necessary you, the one the world has been waiting for. But you've been hiding no more. Because now you know the truth. Here it is. The final truth. The reason Nietzsche's words still echo today, and why they matter more than ever. There is no safe path. Safety is a lie. Comfort is a sedative. And weakness is a slow death. You are not meant to shrink. You are not meant to obey. You are not meant to coast through life quietly. You are meant to burn, to disturb, to create, to lead, to become. Nietzsche didn't hate weak people. He pitied those who chose to stay weak, who surrendered their fire for approval, who traded their soul for silence. But you still have a choice. You can retreat into the arms of the herd, smiling, numb, forgettable. Or you can rise, bleeding, staggering, but alive. And that That is the beginning of power. Become who you are. No one is coming. No one will save you. And that is your greatest gift. The world rewards the ruthless, not because they destroy, but because they dare to create. So, create yourself. The abyss is calling. Step in.